We're here now with the subjects of an amazing documentary out in Annapolis. Could you tell us a little bit about what this movie's about?
Well, the movie, we have 11 people in the movie who represent a pretty accurate cross-section of all of the gay and lesbian alumni that came out of the Naval Academy.
And how did you get involved in this process?
Well, we got involved because we are organized as a group, and what we did find is that the more people find out about us, the more that their fears about what gays are and what gays in the military are tend to be dissipated. And it's like they find out, oh, it's my friends who are gay, those people are okay. And that's what we're trying to do, is put a face on who the gays that go to the Naval Academy really are.
And so just briefly, I'd be curious to kind of talk just very quickly about what your experience as a gay person in Annapolis was.
For me, it was a bit that I had to, after being out to myself in high school, I basically had to go underground for the 4 years while I was at the Naval Academy, just because, as I mentioned in the film, I felt like I really wanted to protect the hard work and effort that I'd put in through Plebe Summer and through the 4 years of work there. So it was very conscious in my mind, very top of mind, and it wasn't until 2 years after I graduated that I really felt comfortable enough and comfortable with myself enough to start going out and being more out socially.
For me, I was one of the guys who knew I was gay when I went in. So for me, it was keeping the two lives completely separate. So while I was at the Naval Academy, I lived a very straight life. And when the little times that we had liberty, which was very few and far between, I was allowed, I allowed myself to live a gay life, and the two never should meet. And that was my experience there.
And your experience?
I was one of those who didn't understand who they were, and then found myself not figuring out how come I'm not going to get married like all the rest of my friends. And I'm actually in the majority. Most of us were like me, and had to deal with it once I was in the military.
My experience at the academy, I really didn't face up to being a lesbian until really when my senior year. So it was more in the fleet, and as an alumni, embracing who I was and really reconnecting with the academy. And it's been a really good thing for me being involved with the Alumni Association.
My experience, I kind of share with Steve and Linda. I didn't really identify myself as gay at the Naval Academy, although throughout the Naval Academy and before that, I'd struggled with feelings that I didn't understand or didn't know how to label as. And one of the things I did fight all through the academy was alcoholism, which I finally overcame. And during that whole kind of reclamation process, also learned to admit to myself the feelings I was having and that I was gay. So even though I didn't identify as gay, it still played a very big part of who I was at the Naval Academy, just in trying to deal with the relationships that I had with people, that the lack of bond that I think that some of them people discussed during the film was the same for me. I really didn't have that connection with other people like I saw going on around me, and it made it that much more difficult. And I think that's something we kind of all share, whether we knew we were gay or not.
Now, I was curious as to how your experience, or in general, women's experiences, or being a gay woman is different than the gay men with the same issue.
Well, one of the things is people know you're a woman, you wear a different uniform, and you have different rooms and different heads, and so everyone knows you're a woman, but everyone doesn't have to know you're lesbian or gay, and so I think for women, it's much more about doing your best to fit in as a midshipman or as an officer and not as a female officer. And I think all of us, gay or lesbian, fight that in more of a hidden scenario. But as a woman, it's just much more apparent who you are. So.
And you mentioned in the Q&A that Annapolis, that you filmed at Annapolis, and they're actually a little bit more receptive and friendly to you doing this project. What do you think is their perspective on the gays in the military?
I think the only one who can really speak for that is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff when he made his comments to the House, it was the Senate Armed Services Committee, where he takes a pretty realistic view of it.
So if Don't Ask, Don't Tell gets overturned, how do you think the experience at Annapolis will be for students coming in now?
Well, the one thing that people seem to fear is that gays will be jumping out of the closet, and that's not necessarily going to happen. I mean, I think for us and for the people that are there, it's just the burden of being found out has been taken off your shoulder. They're still going to be working hard, studying academically, participating in sports, but now they can feel free about who they are. They're not going to be racing out of the closet. And quite frankly, as we learned from the film and the study, most of them were in the coming out process while they were there. So they don't have that extra burden of having to come out in a hostile environment.
The thing I'd like to add to that is many of them feel that if they do come out, that it's going to hurt them. That they get ranked by their peers, and they're afraid that if they're gay, they're going to end up at the bottom of those rankings. And so a lot of them aren't planning on being any different. As Joe said, the big thing is they just don't need to worry about it as much. But until society gets around to treating gays everywhere equally, which includes marriage and in corporate worlds, until people are equal, there's still going to be those who feel they need to divide their lives and spend that energy separating their lives, and that's what we'd like to see long-term go away.
So do any of you have any advice for the current students in Annapolis right now who may be gay or lesbian?
As chairman of USNAL?
We actually have a lot of advice for midshipmen that are currently there. In fact, on our homepage, there's a link that says gouge for midshipmen, which is kind of like the inside scoop for midshipmen. And quite frankly, a lot of the advice is just good life advice about being professional in situations and recognizing when you're in those situations. And then also, frankly, how to deal with don't ask, don't tell. And maintaining silence or learning how to deflect questions as much as it hurts us to ask, or we would never suggest that they lie, but effectively deflect. And we look at ourselves, I think, collectively as being mentors for them, to show that you can be gay, you can be at the Naval Academy, and things actually turn out okay. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we do as a group.
Great. Well, we want to thank you all very much. It was a wonderful movie. Thank you for coming to QFest, and thank you for your service.